May your heart be filled with the joy of the Lord. This December 13th, 2016. I want to share this story with all of you. And it may explain to many the question why I am not a 501c3. Why our ministry, we don't at this time have a building to call a church to where we can help feed and house the homeless. Not being a 501c3, no grants are available to me. But maybe this will explain why I still pray. I pray for a building to hold the services and to help with the homeless crisis and not being a 501c3. I'm just praying that the Lord will move in that direction for us. There's just so much need. And this is why, because I will not be controlled by the state or the federal government. I want to keep Yeshua, I want to keep Jesus the head of the church, not the state or government. Church fined $12,000 for giving shelter to the homeless, and are fined because they are a corporate entity, a 501c3. Very sad. A local Maryland church has been fined $12,000 for providing shelter to homeless individuals living in the community. Over the last several years, there has been a crackdown on privately funded charitable efforts. There you go. Privately funded charitable efforts. Now, if I had a church not being a part of the 501c3, I could not be fined because I'm not in violation of any of their rules. I'm not taking their grants and their funding. With local governments using food and safety concerns along with zoning codes to penalize those who are trying to help those less fortunate. Last month, 4,000 pounds of leftover barbecue from the World Series of Barbecue in Kansas City, Missouri, was destroyed before it was able to be served at a local homeless shelter. Local health officials claimed that they could not account for the safety of the food, even though the chefs who prepared the meat were world-renowned in their craft. As a result, 3,000 homeless people, heartbreaking, went without a meal. And in 2014, you may remember this, an elderly man in his 90s was jailed numerous times for feeding the homeless after a city ordinance was passed forbidding citizens from doing so. Well, these are just a few examples. Both instances demonstrate a pattern of local government shutting down individuals who were willing to dedicate their time and funds to helping those in need. The events currently unfolding at the Pasco United Methodist Church in Maryland follow the same trend of punishing those seeking to do charity work on a private and voluntary scale. For some time now, a handful of homeless community members have been using the church for shelter during the late night hours. Since Maryland winters can be rough, having the church provide this option has been a lifesaver for many who would have otherwise slept out on the street. And there is a crackdown. Someone left a comment on one of my videos about how the churches in the past would open the doors in this type of weather. Here in Michigan, we had 10 inches of snowfall on Sunday. And the churches now are locking the doors. They don't want to lose their tax-exempt status. So they're leaving the homeless out in the cold. It's very sad. But the house of God can be controlled by the state and the federal government. Reverend Katie Grover lamented, "I can't control who sleeps here at night unless I'm here all day and all night. Homelessness, poverty, it's chronic at this point in time. The best we can do as a church is just be a place of refuge and not be chasing people who are just trying to sleep. For the most part, the church has been able to provide shelter to the homeless individuals without strong opposition from the surrounding community. However, Chester Bartko, whose property line lies just behind the church, has insisted that the church put an end to providing shelter to those with nowhere else to go. And by the grace of God, this Chester Bartko, he could be one of them with nowhere to get out of the cold. Barco, who has repeatedly alerted local officials to the church's actions, believes that the homeless should He's seeking assistance elsewhere. The county and state has facilities for homeless people. They shouldn't be here living like this, Barco told local reporters. Barco has also asserted that one of his apple trees, which rests on the other side of the church's fence, has been ruined by the homeless visitors. But these reports have not been confirmed. And he's talking about homeless shelters. They got facilities in the homeless shelters. Let me explain something that a lot of people don't understand about the homeless shelters. You need to be already in the system. You have to have, before you are admitted into a homeless shelter, and this is prominent in Pontiac, Michigan, Flint, Michigan, Pontiac, Michigan, Detroit, Southwest Michigan, all of Detroit. You've got to already have a state ID or a driver's license. You've got to be in the system on welfare, general assistance. You've got to have in Michigan what they call a bridge card, which replaces the old paper food stamps. They take your food stamps, your bridge card, and that's how they feed you one meal a day. If you're not in the system, you're not getting into a shelter if you don't have ID and you're not already in the system. They give you one meal a day at 5 o'clock. That's when you got to be in for the night. As soon as the sun comes up, 7 in the morning, they boot you out in the cold on the street. So it's a no-win situation for many of the homeless. In times of economic uncertainty, communities should empower churches and other private organizations to give as much as they are willing to give by creating criminals out of do-gooders and then sending those in need back into the state's arms. We are not doing anything to strengthen our communities. Reverend Grover is beside herself. Well, come out of the 501c3. Come out, Reverend. Don't be beside yourself. Come out. Make Jesus the head of your church. Is unable to continue what she believes to be God's work. This is the business that we conduct, caring for the least and the lost. And the best we can do right now is to let them take refuge, she said. I had one woman say that this is the only place she felt safe to lay her head down to sleep at night because she has no place else to go. Very, very sad. Very, very sad. I'll put the link to this below. Pray for the homeless today. Pray for the Church of Jesus Christ today, that we have a heart for the homeless. Trying to scroll back up to the top. And boy, the enemy doesn't want this video out because it touches to the heart of Christians, that we need to be Christ-like and have a heart and compassion for the least of these. God bless you. Leave me comments, subscribe to my channel.